Let's welcome in our guests here for the hour. It is Whiteout Wednesday with Jason Avant, sponsored by Walnut Street Smile and Chestnut Dental Group Studio, part of the Doodat Dental Group, official dentist of the Philadelphia Eagles. Jason, how you doing, man?
I'm great. Good to be with you guys after a win, baby.
That's right. We haven't had
Yeah,
Is
man,
it our
we had
first
one of
one
those
since
in a
we
while,
started
man.
Whiteout Wednesday?
No, it hadn't been the first one.
Okay, it just felt like it because it had been a
been a
while.
long time.
Yeah, it had been a long time. All right, Jason, let's talk about what we saw and how good it was on the offensive side. Now, we can all realize it was the Raiders, but to talk about what you saw that was good and maybe they could build off of.
Well, I thought that they did a few things well. They implemented twin two personnel in order to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's two tight ends. That's two running backs, one receiver on the field. That receiver mainly was A.J. Brown. And they were able to move the Raiders. But Latu, I just think that bringing in 36, Latu in to lead block on those plays and or help Grant Calcaterra with the point. He was able to block Max Crosby. They were able to run the jet sweep shovel pass to Dallas Goedert. They did it out of that personnel. They ran a toss out of that personnel. They ran a counter out of that personnel. All of those plays gained at least 6 yards, right? So I thought they did that really well. But Jalen was accurate with the ball. He had one-on-ones down the field. We were aided a few times with some calls. Now, that first pass interference to A.J. Brown on it, Stokes on A.J. Brown, that wasn't a pass interference. And also, there was a holding call that was missed on a long Devontae Smith pass.
Was that on Crosby?
On
Crosby, he was losing his mind.
He was losing his mind on that play. So we were aided a few with that, but Jalen was accurate with the ball, and we were able to run the ball. I won't say we were super efficient running the ball, but we capitalized on third downs, right? 10 of 13 on third downs. You get more plays, so you're able to sustain your chance to run the ball. So I thought those were some things that we did well. And I'm trying to think of everything off the top of my brain. No, Jalen was just accurate.
You know, it's funny because we were talking about it. A part of that was I think Jalen had 7 carries in that game for like 20-some yards or something like
39.
that. 30-some yards.
Yeah. But there were a lot of first downs with those carries.
And we were trying to figure out, how do you feel about implementing him more into the running game? How do you feel about that, especially since there's some speculation that he might have got banged up during the course of the game?
Well, you should implement him more in the run game, but I think in the past they have, and it's more quarterback design runs, and mainly that's been the quarterback sneak. In this particular game, 2 third downs. Early in the game, he was able to run for a first down right up the middle, and later in the game, he was able to get a 12-yard gain on the quarterback draw. Not sneak, but quarterback draw. So that takes his place. Now, here's the thing that kind of stops Jalen. Most teams are dropping people out of the line of scrimmage, and therefore there's no running lanes up the middle. And now Jalen this year hadn't been fast enough to beat people to the edge. And so that's why he hasn't been as effective in the run game, because when you're doing read option and you're doing these things and you can't beat the defensive end and or a linebacker spy, it kind of limits your ability to make yards. But in this particular game, he was able to get yards right up the middle. And and I think that's where the lion's share of his yards will come.
So when we look at the game on Saturday, we had a game earlier this season where they beat up on the Giants. Late October, they were under center a lot. They ran the ball well. And there was a feeling going into the bye, Jason, like, all right, that's what their offense is going to look like. And then it didn't look quite like that as much in the next 5 games. They did it this past Sunday. Do you think what we saw Sunday is something they should build off of? Or is that, because sometimes Sirianni will say each game's its own thing, right?
Yeah.
It's game plan specific, it's team specific. So now we got 3 games left. Do you expect and do you think the offense should look a lot like it did Sunday? Or was that was the plan for the Raiders?
Well, it was the Raiders' plan, but there are some things that they did, right? So you're moving A.J. Brown around a lot in these last few games, which is good. And then even out of some things that you do all the time, you're dressing it up a little bit better. Like A.J. Brown caught like a 12 or 13-yard slant route where he ran, for 6 or 7 yards after the catch. And they just put him on an out motion and made it look a little bit different. And the Raiders didn't know that slant was coming, even though they do it all the time. Right? They put him down the seam, get him a matchup with Jeremy Chin. He scores a touchdown in that situation. So, and then we talked about the compliments to routes. Instead of running, an out or a stop, you do the out and up. They did that the last few games, and they were able to have some success with it. Devontae Smith this week on a spray out. So they're doing more they're doing things effectively the last few weeks when it comes to play calling and sequencing, right? They're marrying plays and they're doing play action and they're taking shots down the field. They're marrying some of these plays on the deep crosses. They have the deep crossing out. Dallas Goedert had an explosive in the second half when it came to that. So I think that this can carry over for sure. Will they have success against a better opponent up front? We will see.
Are they doing because I watched the game and I saw some of the same things that you saw. And my question to you is this, Jason. Are they running better complementary plays, like plays that complement some of the passes they want to do, or are they just executing a lot better?
Well, yeah, so that's the thing. Like, so when you're under center or just a little bit more, the plays start to look alike. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and I told you, they had just off 22 personnel, they had 5 or 6 plays off of that. In the same way when it comes to their 11 personnel package. And Jalen was seeing the field a lot better. One thing that the Raiders, and yes, so yes, their play calls were married to other plays. Yes, so a screen was out of that formation. A run was out of that formation. A deep shot was out of those formations. Right. So when they got into 2 receivers in tight splits, like Devontae Smith, long pass, they had multiple runs where AJ and Devontae were digging out the safeties from that same position, so it makes it look the same to the defense. One thing that I thought that Jalen did a good job was recognizing underneath coverage this week. He recognized it well. The Raiders tried to trap him multiple times. There was a third down where he threw the ball to the flat and missed Saquon, and it kind of and they they didn't convert that third down. Yeah. But he had Dallas Goedert. He was looking right at Goedert. Goedert was wide open, but they had Eichenberg right underneath it, and he was able to recognize that. So I thought that was growth. Another thing with Jalen that happened this week, they would, instead of being in the middle of the field when they had cover 3 or single or man-to-man, the middle of the field safety, he was shaded to A.J. Brown's side. So what do? You go to Devontae Smith. What do? You go to Darius Cooper on the one that he had a pass interference on. All of those things were great by Jalen. And his accuracy was actually really good this game. So I thought they did a great job. Yeah, it was the Raiders, but you can build on it.
All right, so there's been a lot of talk about Kevin Patullo, the offensive play calling all year. We've talked about it, since you started hopping on with us. I feel like the one area he's been pretty good all year is the red zone. I mean, that some of those Goddard plays, even early in the season when the offense wasn't great, they've been good in the red zone basically the entire season. Like, they're still towards the top efficiency in the red zone. Are they just overpowering teams there, or do you see good design? Because those shovel passes, they seem like they work every time.
Well, they work like a charm, and it helps when, I think on that play, I want to say Landon, it was either Landon or Cam Jurgensen, or Jurgens, well, Cam Jurgens, like, literally destroyed the nose tackle, right? That helps. So now you got one guy that was able to go up to the second level on Dallas's jet sweep, and then Latu was in there, and he dominated his side. He needs to play a lot more than he is, right? So he needs to play a lot more, and so they were able to dominate in that formation, but ultimately, in the red zone, they're able to run the ball better than they do in open field. And I don't know why that is. They run the ball better, whether it's Tank, whether it's Saquon, they run the ball better. And because they run the ball better, they're able to hit play action plays, Dallas to the flat, Dallas to, these positions, because they can run the ball better. And I don't know what that is. They need to put that in the field between the 20s, and we'll see how it goes.
What matters is over the next 5 or 6 weeks, Jason, can the Eagles offense move up a level? Can they get better? Can they keep building off what we just saw? So if they do face the Rams, they're ready to go in that game. I mean, that's really all that matters. It doesn't, like a caller saying, it doesn't matter what happened in week 3 when they played each other. It matters if we see them in the title game. Can we get better before then?
Yeah, I think the play calling is getting better, and I think guys are being moved around. I think all of those things are happening. I just think it comes down to the offensive line. The offensive line was able to move
the crowd,
one-on-ones, and they didn't run the ball great when you look at rushing average, but they were able to stay connected on their one-on-one blocks, and that hadn't been consistent. You saw a little bit even in the Raider game where, a guy here, there missing blocks, and I think that's the biggest issue. If you can solve that, you can get to a place where you can be efficient on the outside. I think that the ingredients on the outside and with Jalen is still there.
So we've been talking all year about identity and formula, and we've known the Eagles' identity has been a few different things over different years. Last year was primarily running the football, and they threw it off of that. A few years ago when Jalen first emerged, they did throw it more, and his legs were a huge part of it. there's been a lot of talk this week of did they find their identity? Like, do you feel that, or was that, hey, we're beating the crap out of the Raiders, let's just run the ball and shorten the game and get out of here? Because you look at the final box score, and it's like 47 rushes, 15 passes. Was that an identity game, or is that more of we're beating up a bad team, let's just finish it out?
It was more so of beating up a bad team. The reason is because you're not going to have 47 rushes for 3.9 yards and be able to run the ball efficiently. It's just that the Eagles were dominant on third downs, unlike we've seen this year. And that gives you more opportunities to sustain offense and or to stick with something that you want, which is to run the ball. And we had explosive plays. We had Dallas with an explosive. Mm-hmm. We had Devontae with explosive. We have A.J. Brown with a few explosive. Darius Cooper's interception, that was an explosive, right? You had Saquon with one. When you have explosive plays and you convert third downs, your offense looks totally different.
Yeah, and Hewitt did look different on Sunday. I mean, that was it. And the third down that Jason's brought up here was huge because that kept them on the field. They only had the 3 and out in the second quarter, and after that, they basically moved the ball the whole
possession.
time.
Yeah, the third possession. And they had that. They just, squandered it.
Yeah.
They had that. The play was there.
Yeah, so realistically, when you look at this offense, and we want to put the point scored on them, are they closer to a 21-point a game type of team, or can they be that team that can score 30-plus during the course of a game?
They're not a 30-point offense yet. They're not. And the offensive line play has to become more consistent. Jalen has to be more consistent when the defense is challenging. Mm-hmm. The Raiders' defense was not challenging just because their whole premise was stack as many people in the box as you can in order to stop the run, and therefore on the outside is going to be cover 3 or cover 1, and there's the easy throws. When Jalen has to look out and he can throw a fade ball to A.J. Brown or a fade ball to whoever else, that's an easy thing for him. He's good at it. That's what you go to. But most teams are not going to allow you to do that. They're going to create ways in order to get an extra defender on the box at the snap from deep, and therefore you don't know what's going on the back end, and he has to solve an equation. So, yeah, I don't think that the Eagles will be a 30-point offense until we see that. And the only time we're going to be able to see that is against the Bills.
Right.
Because the Commanders, they're not the best on defense at all this year. They're bottom in the league at stopping the run, bottom of the league at passing. So I don't know if we're going to see what we have and if they've really grown into the Bills game.
All right, so let's look forward here. 3 games to go.
How far? Yeah, we looking. Okay, 3. What you about to do? Look forward. How far are we going?
Well, just the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
Next 3 weeks.
I had some thoughts.
Okay. What do you want to throw in there?
Oh no, I'll let you go first because then it might tie in.
Okay. All right. So we were just on the show yesterday. There was a discussion about Jalen running and protecting him versus trying to win these games. Right, getting into a groove before the playoffs. Where do you come down on? Because they only need one win. Like if they win Saturday, they're in the playoffs. Right, they've won the NFC East and. I think it's probably unlikely they're going to get the 1 seed, so that they can really approach the final 2 weeks of the season however they want, right? They could rest some players, they could kind of take it easy, or they could go all out. That's Nick Sirianni's choice. When it comes to Jalen Hurts, would you try to back off until the playoffs with him running? Because we did see Sunday. Now, he said he's fine yesterday. He wasn't on the injury report. That didn't look good when he went down. That looked a little scary, right? Would you back off on him running the football in the final few weeks if it doesn't really mean anything? Or would you say, no, we got to get into a groove. We're playing our offense?
No, I would back off because I think that's the smart thing to do. But here's my suggestion, right? And this is just me, just in my thoughts.
Yeah, we call it on this show recklessly speculative.
Here's my thoughts, right? I think if the Eagles win this game and they're going to secure the number 1 seed, right? The last 2 ball games really don't mean anything because you're not going to be able to move up.
They're probably going to be the 3 seed no matter what happens.
No matter what happens, right? So if that's the case, I'm using that time in order to get Jalen to see things that he's going to see in the playoffs, right? So over this year, you have seen so many blitzes from the opposing defenses that have been successful. How can I help Jalen? I can have a Jalen drill in practice at the end of every practice. 10 to 15 plays of all the looks that he's failed against that the NFL is going to copy, and you don't give him the coaching and show him the read and, scout it up for him.
Don't make it easy,
You let him fail in those moments. You give him the play, give him the adjustments with the play call and let him fail over and over again. Matter of fact, make your first team defense to ensure that the scout guys are not going to favor the quarterback, right? And I think in those moments, and you give him those reads where he can run the ball. I'm not saying you hit him, but he can run the ball. He can read the defense, read blitzes, and therefore he can grow in those moments and be prepared for the playoffs. That's my thought.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would, if they win Saturday, which they should beat the Commanders Saturday, and they win this division, I would back off him running for the next few weeks. Like, I would just take it easy and make sure we get to the postseason healthy. Hugh, where did you want to go?
No, I was just thinking, okay, going into the playoffs. Like, I'm just want you, when you talk about projecting a little bit, you say, so we're closer to more of a 21 point a game.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle, 20, 24, not 30.
Okay, saying, like, when you know the playoff field now, presently constructed, do you think a 21-point team is good enough to make it all the way?
No, but if they're 24, 26, they may be able to with the defense playing the way that they are.
Okay.
So if you can play good defense and not turn the ball over on offense, you always got a chance in the playoffs. So remember, there's parts of the playoffs that are outside of the normal scope of the NFL. You start to get into inclement weather. You start to get in where the Rams offense, like last year, they come in here and now they're a great offense, but they got to deal with snow, and therefore they're not the same team. And that's a part of the playoffs.
Gotcha.
Until you get to the Super Bowl, and that's one game. Anything can happen in that one game, right? So if you get outdoors like the Eagles are, and they get a few games at home where you're playing on the road somewhere else, the weather and the conditions can play a role in this, along with a good defense and being able to run the ball.
Well, it can. And then you mentioned the defense, which we haven't talked much about. Man, that a shutout, 70.
75 yards is crazy.
I know the Raiders stink, but like to hold anyone in the NFL to 75 yards is remarkable. When I was watching, I was like, they haven't moved the ball over midfield for an hour.
No, yeah, they didn't. Yeah, just the beginning of the game, one time, and then the first drive of the second half before Bond picked it. That was pretty much it. And they were trying to attack the Eagles in such a weird way, and Adoree Jackson was over there, and they didn't really, attack him. And they were doing this 3-by-1 set, and they kept running across the field. And instead of, I guess they were thinking, okay, our backside safety is going to focus on the backside receiver. No, our backside safety would just look at the 3 receiver side and kind of stop it. And so it was a weird game plan for me, but that's the Raiders. What do you say?
I mean, they're the worst team in football. I mean, you know what it was, Hugh? It was the game we needed. We needed to see the Raiders.
I mean, a win is a win, man.
And they have, and outside of Bowers and Lockett, they have nothing else on offense.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, and I know they have a first-round draft pick and
is he not what people thought? Or is it the team around him just...
The line sucks.
Okay.
And so you don't know, but he doesn't look like he has max effort out there. He definitely looks like I'm playing not to get hurt.
Well, that's how you end up 2-11 or whatever the heck they are. All right.
I will say this. Lockett was turning Coop any which way but loose in that game.
Some of those veteran receivers...
Theo that's what I was about to say. Yeah. Coop was hot.
No, Lockett was mixing Coop up out there. Now, the veteran receivers, like, they have all the nuance and all the tact, and I'm talking about he was shaking Coop's face off. And Coop was getting frustrated, but they didn't have the players around it in order to capitalize on it.
They couldn't have it with that.
Yeah. But I was just looking at the film and laughing my butt off because as a older player, you got a young guy that's better than you, but you just have nuance to your game, So it was just funny.
It was. All right, 215-592-9494. We'll take your phone calls here. Wide Out Wednesday continues. Jason Avant in for the hour. We'll look ahead to Saturday, the matchup against the Commanders. What kind of threat